Okay, so let's recap on last weekend. Chelsea concede 3 goals to West Brom within 27 minutes. Okay, Man City concede 5 at home to Leicester and lose 5-2. West Ham beat Wolves 4-0. See that one coming. Let's go to the continent for a second. Bundesliga, European champions, lose 4-1 at Hoffenheim. So an opportune time for Borussia Dortmund, their main challengers, to pick up the slack and close the gap. No, they lose 2-0 at Augsburg. And in Spain, Atletico Madrid score 6. The under kings themselves. Mark O'Hare, it was a pretty average weekend all in all, right?
Yeah, it was eventful, Sully, very much so, across the continent and at home. Great stuff for the neutrals. I had a pretty rotten weekend myself, punting wise, but I guess happens, especially after the week before, which went all so well. But yeah, in terms of the neutrals, in terms of goalmouth action and entertainment, plenty of it around the continent, especially at home as well, with City's implosion against Leicester on Sunday.
Adrian Clark, Chelsea, going to smash West Brom apparently last week. I've got to bring it up there. Sorry. We're good enough. Look, in the integrity of the podcast, we do shout about the winners, but let's have integrity here. That wasn't a great weekend. Not a great show.
No, not great at all. No, I mean, I was very bullish, wasn't I, about Chelsea? I was obviously overconfident about them and their new defence.
They were definitely overconfident about it, Ages. You weren't.
Yeah. Do you know what though? Even when they were 3-0 down, I still felt like Chelsea would come back and get something. Yeah. And it wouldn't have surprised me had they come back and won that game. But yeah, no, you got to hold your hands up and say no. Didn't see that one coming, nor the Leicester result, of course. I think we both went in on Manchester City for that one, but Leicester did a job on them, didn't they? On the counter, as they have done in the past. Didn't expect them to do it last weekend, but fair play.
We did have winners, of course. We had Liverpool to win and both teams to score, which I think was about 2.8. That was a pretty comfortable one against the Gunners. We also had over 2.5 in the Manchester United game. And Mark, just on that, penalties galore again in the Premier League. We won't go into it too much because it's been covered ad nauseum already in different podcasts early in the week. But just in terms of goal markets and your models going forward, is this one to maybe react to, or is it maybe one to just maybe not overreact to and bet accordingly? Because even you can see this week, the goal lines are creeping up a bit.
Yeah, they are. And if you go into the sub-markets and look to things like a penalty to be awarded, a penalty to be scored, red cards, etc., they're all increased as well. I can understand why. It's been a crazy couple of weeks. For me personally, it's always a case to get to the first international break, sit back and see what's changed from what you thought was going to happen at the start of the season to where we are now. I do think after 3 rounds of matches, 4 in some places, it's still probably a little bit too early, but certainly if you watch Match of the Day 2 on Sunday night and you saw the actual figures there in front of you, obviously a lot of Europe have been importing this handball rule for the last season. It's only the Premier League who really took it up this year, and the difference in sort of penalties and handballs awarded is quite stark, really. I disagree with Jermaine Genius that the Premier League should be going out and doing its own thing, really, in terms of the handball rule. The whole love and enjoyment of football is simplicity. We started playing it as we were kids with jumpers for goalposts, and the idea being when you're an adult, it's the same sort of pitch, the same goals, the same rules, really. So I don't know why the Premier League thinks it's different to everyone else. At the moment, you've got to abide by the rules. It sounds like the referees are going to start to soften their stance on a few of these sort of rulings, which would be obviously encouraged. I think Roy Hodgson spoke very well on Saturday night, but in terms of models and kind of pricing things up, it's hard not to look at the high goal rate across the first few weeks. The Premier League is traditionally quite a high scoring league anyway, but I'm not reading a huge amount into the high penalty rate just yet. I want a bit more evidence before I start to make massive difference. What I would say actually though is I'm quite keen on referees and refereeing appointments, and now actually I'm looking at VAR appointments as well. Coming into Premier League weekends, just to see who's in charge, because it can make a difference. And I think the big one, Man United against Spurs this weekend, Anthony Taylor's in charge. He's quite a fussy referee. It wouldn't be a huge surprise if a major decision was made just because he's the referee over someone a bit more lenient, I should say.
I'm not going to lie, Mark, when Bundesliga returned in late March, early April, I was following your cards and your referee analysis of the Bundesliga. like you don't even want to know how much I was following that, but it was very profitable for me. Anyway, Adrian, I will mention, just before we move on to today's topics, You did nail both your EFL bets last week. Lay Brentford and was it Doncaster to win? I think they had to 4-0 or 4-1. So yeah, good man on that. Well done. And we'll have plenty more. EFL, you're top dog for the EFL this year, but we'll have plenty more this week. So coming up today's show, if you watch us now, you can see it on the ticker. Aston Villa against Liverpool, Manchester United against Tottenham, Leeds against Man City, and Adrian's choice, Newcastle against Burnley. And of course, we'll be covering, as I said, EFL and best bets thereafter. Right, gentlemen, let's dive straight into it. And Mark, I'm going to start with you here first, and we're going to look at the betting currently for Aston Villa against Liverpool. At the time of recording, Aston Villa, if you can see on screen there, 10.6 to win the game. Liverpool at just under 1.33. The draw of 5.6. Villa getting a goal and a half start on the Asian handicap, and 3 is the main line. Mark, we look back on Monday night for Liverpool. I know Roy Keane has his opinions on it, but I mean, it's hard not to be impressed by Liverpool again. I think we're getting a bit boring to maybe change the record there, but there wasn't anything you saw there that possibly would get you with Villa here, surely not.
Not particularly. There were obviously flaws in that Liverpool performance, but I think you do start to run out of superlatives to describe them. You look on paper, the tricky start they've had really, Leeds, Chelsea away, and then Arsenal to be 9 points from 9 and win all of them reasonably comfortably is quite impressive, considering many people looked at the way they ended the season and thought maybe that malaise might continue into this campaign. I thought they might be able to sort of pick up where they left off really before they won the title. Seems to be the case. There are a few defensive issues there, excuse me, to be ironed out. But, I'm kind of bored of repeating the old stats of Liverpool, so I won't continue to do so about the points earned and the win rate, etc. and so on. But it's just amazing. They've only lost 4 games since the start of 2018-19 in the Premier League. You've just got to admire the players' relentlessness, the coaching there. They're a really special side, and it's going to take some beating to turn them over this year. So I guess the one change I noticed last year with Liverpool was they're a bit more streetwise, a bit more pragmatic, especially away from home. The game management skills have definitely been in evidence, really. Klopp talks about them as being a winning machine. They're no longer sort of trying to beat teams 4-5, 6-0 like Man City will. They will take the foot off the gas when they are in a comfortable lead and kind of preserve themselves, really, because that's what makes them so special, that intensity. So they can keep teams at arm's length. You can see that in the away games last year. They won, I think, 14 or 15. Only 6 of those wins away from home are by 2 goals or more. And they only scored more than 3 goals away from home just the once. So goal figures and XG is down compared to their Anfield performances. So, I do expect them to beat Aston Villa, but I'm not expecting them to run up a big score. So I was actually looking towards Liverpool to win this match by exactly 1 goal, which piqued my kind of interest, really, because it was just shy of 3-1, which feels big. Villa have improved immeasurably if you look at their performances before and after lockdown. I think the change to a back 4 seemed to do the trick defensively. They conceded 0.94 XG in the last 10 games after lockdown. They started this season with back-to-back clean sheets and wins against Sheffield United and Fulham. Okay, that's not obviously Liverpool, but they are limiting the damage. Matty Cash gives them extra energy down fullback. Louise is a decent shield. McGinn and Hourihane will operate in midfield quite nicely. And Watkins has mobility up there in attack too. So I do quite like this Villa team. Ross Barkley's a great addition as well to get on loan for the end of the season. But ultimately, it's hard to oppose this Liverpool side. I did kind of look at Villa plus 1.5, and I did kind of look at the under 3 goal line or under 3.25 goal line. But I think I just want to side with something Liverpool based, and I think them to win by exactly 1 goal at that price is too good to ignore.
Adrian, we could talk forever, as Mark says, about Liverpool and their relentlessness and their professionalism and their just a general machine. But Villa were I thought they're quite good against Fulham last week. I mean, obviously they won 3-0, but they only had like 35% possession. I know, obviously, you expect the team that are behind to have more possession, but they just seemed quite clinical with what they did, and they're pretty impressive. Very
accomplished performance, wasn't it? And it backed up the win against Sheffield United, which was a bit distorted because of the man advantage. It wasn't. It was just a very awkward game for them, but they got the job done there. No, it's been a great start for Aston Villa. Konsa and Mings are playing ever so well at the moment, and I think that's a plus for them clearly ahead of the visit of Liverpool. Just having watched that Liverpool-Arsenal game, I was supremely impressed by Liverpool. So I do think they will have too much quality. Ollie Watkins is an interesting one in this game because he runs the channels really, really well, particularly down that left-hand side between the right centre-half and the right back. He loves those runs. And And Arsenal got in there to score the goal. And I think that Liverpool have a slight vulnerability over that side between Gomez and Arnold. So keep your eye on Ollie Watkins. He might be able to spring a surprise or two on the break. But yeah, I mean, complete agreements with Mark, because I had exactly the same thing. Liverpool to win by a goal or two. I'm nervous of going too big on the handicap with Liverpool here because of this excellent start. So yeah, I'm certainly aligned in my thoughts with Mark on this one.
All right, I think we'll spend too much longer on that, guys. Again, we could talk about Liverpool forever, but Liverpool to win by a goal. You reckon, what's the general guide price there, Mark, on that?
I think it was 3.8 when I looked.
3.8, okay. Cool. All right, it's good to know. All right, let's move on, gentlemen. Let's move on to Manchester United against Tottenham. We'll talk about United, Adrian, again. We'll have plenty to discuss here after last weekend. They are currently 2.0 at home. It's even money at home to Tottenham. Tottenham, you can back there at 4.0. 3.7 is the draw. Tottenham getting a half a goal start on the Asian handicap, just under 1.83. And the total is 2.75. Right, Adrian, where to begin with Manchester United? I think it's been discussed ad nauseum as well. They probably didn't deserve to win that game. In the 10th minutes of stoppage time, final whistle gone. I mean, you come away from that. We obviously expected that it probably would suit them. Brighton had a high line. Brighton obviously probably deserved a lot more out of that game. Definitely deserved a point. But coming away from that game, you're not. It's very hard to be impressed with Manchester United and be going in at even money here.
No, exactly. Yeah, unimpressive really. Again, although they were improved, although it was the second string at Brighton last night, they won quite handsomely. So yeah, no, I think that Brighton were good opponents for them because they would leave that space in behind on the break, and we saw that for the wonderful goal that Rashford scored. Don't think Spurs will be gifting those kind of opportunities too often. They'll certainly be looking to sit a little bit deeper and to nullify that front three. So yeah, Jose has a poor record, doesn't he, going away to former clubs? That's something to consider, and it means I think that he'll be pretty cautious in this one. No Son Heung-min, of course, which is a bit of a blow to them. What I'll say about Spurs is that across the last couple of games, they've created a lot of chances. I mean, Harry Kane could have scored about 10. And
12 shots on target against Newcastle.
Yeah, remarkable. That's from the team.
Goal.
Yeah, that's from the team. Harry Kane had 8 shots himself during the game, didn't score. So you feel like Harry's close to getting himself a decent haul in one of these games. Will he get it against United? I don't know. I've looked at the sort of history of this. The history of this fixture is really interesting, actually. There's never been a draw at Old Trafford between United and Spurs in the Premier League. None of the. Sorry, I should clarify that. None of the last 14 meetings at Old Trafford between Man United and Spurs have ended in a draw. Most of them have ended in United victories. Look, Spurs can't keep clean sheets on the road. We know that. So I think Manchester United will score at least one here. But can we really trust this United defence at the moment? We saw Brighton hit the woodwork 5 times, scored twice, of course. We're unlucky not to get more. I'm looking at both teams to score here. And I like price of the draw, actually, even though history is against us. 3.7 to me looks good value. I can't.
It's probably true. United. It's probably due. Adrian. That's the only thing I would say. It hasn't happened.
Yeah, exactly. Sometimes you got to think about that. And I look at this game. I think Tottenham have got enough about them at the moment to get something at Old Trafford. And Manchester United aren't playing well enough to back it even at even monies on home turf. So yeah, the draw for me represents the best value. But look, I know that a lot of people out there don't like backing the draw.
Well, let's see what Mark O'Hare says on this one. Mark, I kind of get the sense that 2.0 will be there. It may go the other way, but I could see United probably going off with odds on here. What are you thinking about this one? And if they are odds on, there's surely a lay. You would probably want to get with Tottenham even just to sneak a draw on Saturday.
Well, I'm glad that Adrian went first on this game because I'm finding it really hard.
It's hard.
I looked at that price. United were odds on yesterday, so they've drifted ever so slightly around 1.95, 1.96-ish. So even money does make a slight difference, but it's still too short for a United team who were 2.6 in this fixture at Old Trafford last December. So now they're sort of even money. That's quite a considerable difference in opinion from the layers. They were obviously in a poor run of form going into that game back in December, but still, those first 2 performances against Palace and Brighton are alarming. You mentioned the woodwork being hit 5 times, but in the opening 2 games, they conceded 32 shots, lost the shots on target counts in both and the XG battle. So, it might only be 2 games into the season, but both of those United were very strong favourites and failed to perform. They've looked quite impotent going forward, lacking imagination, bit of a shambles defensively as well. Obviously a tiny sample, but their home wins are down at 32% in the Premier League so far. And I guess with the slight, disadvantage of home fans not being in the stadium, you've got to sort of make allowances for that in the price as well. So you're effectively saying United are around a 1.8 shot at home to Spurs right now, and I can't be buying that at all. So it's a big difference in 10 months. I know Spurs are stronger this season. They've got almost a fully fit squad. I do think Son is a massive blow for them, particularly on the counter-attack, which I expect, and how they're going to try and set up. And I guess from a Spurs point of view, there's just a massive physical disadvantage for them, a horrendous schedule. Jose Mourinho, you've got to admire him, really. He's such an intense guy. He's just desperate to win everything. And I know he did rotate quite heavily on Tuesday, but it was still a very strong Spurs team. Put in a lot of effort in that match, got a good win, obviously, on penalties. And then Thursday night, they're playing in the Europa League. He's talking about playing a strong team again. So that's Sunday, Tuesday, Thursday to go Sunday again. That's quite heavy, still early in the season as well. I thought they were pretty rank against Everton, pretty poor in the first half against Southampton too. And then it's Newcastle, isn't it? So where do you see where Spurs are? I don't know is the answer, to be honest. And I know United have a decent record in this fixture at Old Trafford. They haven't been odds on or close to even money at home to Spurs since 2015. So, I can't be backing them at that price. I can see why Adrian would like the draw. I wouldn't be put off by it either. I also had a thought about looking at under 2 3/4 on the goal line, just because this is Mourinho in a big game away from home, a Spurs team that could be quite leggy. The easy answer is just to sit back and put a low block in place and try and play on the counter-attack. And United's attacking line hasn't functioned at all yet. They've averaged or accumulated just 2.2 XG, and that includes 1 penalty so far. So, not impressed with United, but I still think there's sort of reasons why I wouldn't be getting with Spurs either. So I think probably the draw is the best approach.
Looks like a 1-1, doesn't it, really? I mean, I looked at with you, Spurs always concede away. Only twice in 27 games they've kept that clean sheet. But United have scored in 15 straight games in the Premier League. So even though we know they're not firing, they very rarely shoot blanks. So I think they're almost certain to score here, despite Tottenham's likely defensive approach.
It's funny, we're recording early on Thursday morning, and 10 minutes ago United were 2.0, but market 1.95 now. So there you go. The market is coming. The market, as I predicted, is coming back the other way. So I don't know. They seem to be. It seems.
I feel like the odds are weighing too heavily on potentially Spurs' heavy schedule at the moment. I think that's probably what's influencing things.
Okay, maybe it's kind of like a half unit kind of play on this draw at 3.72 currently. But we'll come back to that. We'll recap our bets in a while, and we'll maybe have another quick discussion about that. Let's move on to one of the more watchable teams in the Premier League this season. Well, there's a lot of watchable teams. Leeds United play host to Manchester City, and this all of a sudden becomes a pretty interesting game. Look at that price there, Marco. 8.8 Leeds United at home. Manchester City 1.36. Look, it's Man City, whatever, but can they defend? Are they going to concede more goals? 5.7 is the draw. 1.5 start, 1.5 start Leeds are getting on the Asian handicap. Bit of margin there in that, and 3.5 is the total there. Mark, talk to me about Leeds United. Very boring 1-0 win against Sheffield United last week. You're just used to these 4-3 games all of a sudden. They're a big price here. But look, are we just expecting, is America just expecting Man City just to bounce back and know more about it?
Yeah, I guess so. And, I feel a bit of a fool. Sat here 7 days ago sort of talking up City against Leicester. I guess the one thing I would say is I did anticipate Aymeric Laporte to play. He was a big miss. I know he's not the answer to everything, but he does obviously make a difference, and probably overvalued Wilfred and Ndidi's absence for Leicester, and didn't actually see them changing system or shape to. It's probably what Leon tried to do to City, and it worked so well. Clearly, defensively, there are massive flaws, and I think questions now have to be seriously asked about Pep Guardiola and his management and his coaching of that team from a defensive standpoint. Spending
I read something on this. So there's 400 million spent on 14 defenders in his tenure there. That is a crazy stat, and they still don't seem to have a left back. So I don't know how they've managed that, but it's a funny one.
Yeah, it's not good enough. And going out splashing another 60 million on a new centre half who is supposed to be the answer to all these questions, it is not the answer for me. I think it comes down to the training pitch. Potentially, it comes down to Pep. Maybe he's too intense. Maybe his demanding nature. He's been there 4 years or so now. Maybe players are just getting a bit tired to it. The team is also getting older, and there seems to be less mobility about that team as well. But credit to Leicester for exploiting the weakness, I should say. I do think the final score was a bit skewed. Obviously, all the penalties in Leicester's favour really helped, obviously. But I thought City were really good, actually, for the first half hour and fully deserving of their lead. It's just when that first penalty went in, they just crumbled. And it's quite worrying, really. And coming into this game, they're still going to be out Gabriel Jesus and Aguero. Sterling didn't really convince in the false nine position. And you're looking at 17-year-old Liam Delap as a potential striking option from the bench. There's not a huge amount going for that, and I probably ignored the second half against Wolves when I probably should have been taking more interest in it, because I put it down to tiredness. But City looked all over the place in that second half against Wolves. So there are a few deep running issues there, and I think Leeds are potentially the team who could make them pay for it. Obviously, that intensity, that ferocity, that speed of transition, we know Leeds are capable of. They will create chances. It's just whether they can take them. Bielsa quite, honestly admitted that they're scoring at an unsustainable rate across their first 3 games, which is quite ironic for anyone who watched the Championship over the last 2 seasons, how profligate they were. But I think Leeds can cause them problems. I don't think the 1 3/4 handicap is still available. It was earlier in the week. I think it might have been gobbled up by now. I don't know if you can check on that, Sully. But I think if you get Leeds on side of 1 3/4 is a great price. It was around 1.8. I have a feeling it's down to about 1.6ish by now. City weren't regular winners by 2 goals or more away from home. If you look at teams from around mid-table and above last year, they tend to sort of get the job done, but only just. And I think if you get that extra quarter on side, obviously you're getting a bit of money back if they do lose by 2 goals or more. But if that's not available, BTTS over 2.5, combine the 2, should be a good option. But I do think Leeds can keep this competitive, so I wouldn't put anyone off the 1.5 star either.
Yeah, the price has gone a bit there, Mark. It's 1.62 currently, but there is a bit of margin in that market. But if that market was available, even up to 1.7, is it a kind of a 1 unit play from there? Do you think a small bet, or what kind of price would you bet at that?
I'd bet it about 1.73, 1.75. Okay. So
yeah, I don't know if we'll get back there. Yeah,
1.5 is the option. It's gone. You've got to be quick for these things. Obviously, the markets watched what happened to City on Sunday and reacted.
Adrian, I think it was pretty well flagged with Leeds United coming back to the top flight for the first time in 16 years that they'd be more than ready for it. But I think they've even surprised a few people at how ready they've been. Do you think they can keep it close here?
Oh, it's not going to be easy because they don't have a strong defensive platform at the moment. Their central defence is a work in progress, and I think that's a slight concern ahead of this game. Look, I love their adventure. They're so bold, they're so brave, and they're creating more chances or better goal opportunities than I anticipated. So that side of things are working great. I looked at some of the stats, actually. I've written a piece previewing this game for the Premier League, and Leeds are the fittest team in the league. No surprise there. They've run a lot further. They've run, by the way. I know this doesn't win you games. They've run over 8 kilometres further than Man City players per match so far, which is incredible. They're top of the tackles won chart. They've won more duels than anybody else. They've won more ball recoveries. So in essence, they're tailor-made to hurt City. They'll get in their faces. They'll go man-to-man where possible. And they're very, very good at pinching the ball back. That's a problem for City. For me, it's all about can Leeds then punish them with the right final pass, the right decisions inside the final third. At the moment, Bamford's on fire. So can he do it again? That's the big question. I think Leeds will score based on those factors and how they're set up to hurt them. My issue is at the other end. Back 3 last weekend. It's been a back 4 previously. He tends to go back 4 when there's one up top against them. So I think that's the way he'll go here. But it's not a unit that's looking that sturdy at the moment, in my opinion. So I worry that they might not be able to keep City at bay. So I see goals basically. I think City will win. I'm almost certain both teams will score, and I'm actually looking at over 3.5 here. I can see a little bit of a goal fest. I think it's just under evens, 1.95.
Yeah.
Last time I looked for over 3.5. So yeah, that's the way I see it. These two coaches love one another, don't they? Bielsa and Guardiola. I think they'll go toe to toe, have a bit of a shootout.
Well, the bet last weekend with the Manchester City game was Man City to win and both teams to score. So I think that could be the way in there. I don't have the prices down or the general guide prices that, but that could be the way in. But you'd imagine it's going to be a decent enough price anyway. Okay, guys, let's move on. I have lost my screen sharing abilities, Adrian, so I'm just going to call out these prices. And I'm going to stick with you because you're the only one who really wanted to talk about this game. So let's have a look at it. It's not a terrific weekend in Premier League fixtures, so it is good to talk about some of these teams every now and again as well. So current betting at Matchbook, Newcastle United at 2.52, Burnley at 3.14. The draw is available at 3.18. The Asian handicap, Burnley are getting a quarter of goal Stark on the Asian handicap, and 2.25 is the total. Obviously a low enough one. Adrian, Burnley, first of all, I'll be honest, I was disappointed in them last week. I looked at that price. I think they were about 3.2, 3.3 at the off, and I just thought that was maybe a good bet at home against a Southampton team that had been struggling. They kind of disappointed there, and it was just kind of something a bit missing. But what are you thinking in this one?
Well, I'll tell you that the missing link was James Tarkowski. You look at the goal; it's a pass that bisects both centre backs. It was long and done. Two rookies really, so they were missing Tarkowski and me, and I think that's made a big difference to Burnley across the opening few weeks. So that's an issue for them to solve. Tarkowski was back for the game against City in the Carabao Cup, so I think he'll play at Newcastle. The reason I think this is interesting, Newcastle, obviously they started the season well at West Ham, but their home form is dreadful. I think they've won just one of their last 8 at home. They've been smashed in their last 3 at home. So there's a slight, not phobia, but they're not exactly full of confidence on their own patch, fans or no fans. So that's something to consider. And Burnley, for whether you're impressed with them or not, I think they're a dangerous team on the road. They've scored in their last 6 actually in all competitions away from Turf Moor. They normally get themselves at least 1 goal, and I think that they can do something at Newcastle. They've had a lot of efforts across the first 2 games, 26 efforts on goal across 2 games, which is quite a lot for Burnley. So it's working okay up until inside the penalty box, where it just hasn't fallen for them so far. And I just have a sneaky feeling that this might be their opportunity to do something. So 5 of the last 6 meetings between these two sides have had 2 goals or less as well. So it's not a high scoring fixture. I'm just looking at this as a low scoring Burnley win. Burnley are 3.14, and the line I think is set at 2.0 to 2.25. For unders, you can get 1.8 on that. So some kind of combo or one of each of those bets is where I'd be heading here. I can't be back in Newcastle for this game, not with their home form, and not with Burnley looking for a reaction as well, because Sean Dyche, he'll be expecting a bit more from his team.
Adrian, I lost my audio for a second. Can you just repeat what was the bet there for Burnley? Adrian, sorry. Sorry. Yes.
I just lost you there.
No, you're fine. I actually lost my audio when I was listening to you about Burnley. What was the actual selection there? Sorry, man.
My selection was Burnley. Burnley, I think at 3.14, but also going on the unders. The mark I think is set at 2.0 to 2.5. Unders, 2.25, unders at 1.8 something. It attracts me because it's a very low scoring fixture. 5 of the last 6 meetings between these two sides have had under 2 goals or under. So for me, it's a narrow Burnley win in not a particularly exciting game.
Which would be totally unlike Burnley. So that's fine. I'm happy with that. Mark, I know you weren't massively interested in that, but anything to follow up what Adrian said there?
I think he's covered it really well. I think Burnley have been really handicapped by their injuries this season. Ben Mee, Tarkowski, Cork. Ashley Barnes, Jay Rodriguez, could carry on really. I know Ashley Barnes played in midweek as well, which is a big bonus for them. Tarkovsky's back as well. But just one thing to keep an eye on with Burnley, really. Sean Dyche has been grumblings of discontent around Turf Moor and him for quite a while now. He's clearly unhappy about the lack of, I wouldn't say ambition, but the additions that he's not been getting, the injuries he's had to deal with, and he's still kind of going into battle and fielding a competitive team. I think the game against Leicester was harsh to come out of that result against Southampton. They only conceded 5 shots. The only shot on target they conceded was a goal from Danny Ings. So, clearly they are competing, and I just think he's not really that kind of character. But if he doesn't get a few bodies in next week, it wouldn't be a huge surprise if he was just to walk out of Burnley, because what more has he got to try and prove? So it's probably a big price to look at in the next manager to lead market.
It's a big call. That's a big call. That it's interesting. Look, I said at the time when his stock was high, when he was knocking on the door of the top 6, that was the time to get out, and he signed a new long-term contract. And I just think, was that his moment? Was that Sean Dyche's moment to get a better job? One thing I forgot to mention there on Newcastle is that I don't think they've been as sturdy as normal at the back. There have been 1 or 2 issues there. Carl Darlow has been excellent so far. No keeper's had to make more saves, actually, than him across the season so far. I think he's made 18 saves in total. So yeah, I just think Burnley can, if they go with the right attitude, with Tarkovsky back, a bit sturdier, go with the right attitude, they can do something at St James's.
You almost wonder with Dyche, though, is a case of, you were saying there, Adrian, when he signed that new contract, that he probably did expect some investment given what his results were. And then you're probably looking at it from the Burnley's board side of things and saying, well, this guy seems to be kind of content enough and keeping us in the Premier League with what he has. And it's just, why change it? It's almost like they're both at 2 different kind of crossroads here, and neither is willing to budge. So Mark showed the next manager to leave could be an interesting one.
It's a good shout. It's not the worst shout in the world. But not many Premier League managers resign and walk out on their jobs. But it's something to think about for sure.
Absolutely. Okay, guys, before we move on to EFL bets, I want to just do a quick recap of what we covered there and what maybe our selections were. So let's double back and look at Aston Villa against Liverpool. So we're thinking Liverpool to win by exactly 1 goal, and that's around the 3.84 mark. We're saying maybe half a unit play on the draw at Manchester United and Spurs. Leeds and Man City to win and both teams to score. And maybe a half unit on Burnley to win the game. And that is currently priced at 3.14. But again, maybe 1 unit play on under 2.25 in that one. Happy enough with those, guys? I didn't miss anything. Nothing kind of missing out.
Fingers crossed, yeah.
Fingers crossed.
I prefer Leeds on the handicap, but we'll be fine with.
Okay, yeah. Well, you could do that. It does seem like, I don't know if it's going to get back to 1.73.
No, I'll take 1.5.
1.5. Cool. Okay, Leeds plus 1.5. Let's pencil that one in there. So Leeds plus 1.5. Right, EFL, my favorite time of the week. Adrian, kick us off. Where are we going? Because you're our clubhouse leader here with the EFL bets.
Well, I'll do my best. I'm looking at 2 games here. Middlesbrough against Barnsley in the Championship. Now, for me, Middlesbrough have not quite got the results that they've deserved so far. I think their performances have been okay. Not quite good enough, but they've been okay. And I think that they're due a win. They played very well in their first home game against Bournemouth. Unfortunate not to take all 3 points in that one. And the reason, so I fancy Borough in that sense, but there are issues at Barnsley at the moment with their manager, Gerhard Struber, who was brilliant last year. He's wanted by the MLS. New York Red Bulls are chasing him hard. And I was expecting news to have emerged by now, actually, that he's gone. It's a real dark cloud hanging over Oakwell at the moment. And I do feel that it's impacted on their performances. They've played all right so far, been a bit toothless inside the final third. They've drawn blanks, actually, in 4 of their last 5 games. Barnsley. So yeah, I fancy Middlesbrough, and the price for me is good. It's 2.25 at home to a Barnsley side that's in a little bit of turmoil with the gaffer. So that really did catch my eye. The one caveat is that Barnsley have already been to the Riverside in the Carabao Cup and won. So that kind of negates it. But for me, that was a second string game, and I'm not reading too much into it.
2.28 at the moment, Adrian, even bigger.
Oh, okay. So yeah, it's drifted a little bit. So yeah, Borough, at that price, I really like them for a home win. The other one is Hull against Plymouth. Hull have really impressed me. They were in crisis at the end of last season, but Grant McCann has kind of got rid of all the players that didn't want to be there. He's recruited well, in my opinion, and they've been really, really solid up until this point. I think 4 clean sheets. A few of their players are playing well. Honeyman in midfield, Malik Wilkes up top is looking sharp. So Hull at home to Plymouth. First up, it's a really long trip for Plymouth, and I don't know what finances are like at the moment, whether they've stayed overnight or not. But that is a beast of a trip for them. And I've looked at their away form. Only 2 away games so far. They conceded 7 goals in total at Leyton Orient and at AFC Wimbledon. Not exactly heavyweight road trips. They've been very, very leaky. They've got a couple of young boys at the back at the moment. The keeper has been quite overworked. So for me, Hull look a good bet as well. And I believe you told me the double, if you wanted to go down that route, was just over 4.1 yesterday for Borough and Hull.
It's even bigger now. It's about 4.5 now. It's only 7-2. Yeah.
Well, I definitely give it a go. Small wager on that one. It's a bit of fun, isn't it? But I look at those 2 games, and for the reasons outlined, I see home wins.
Yeah, and don't forget you can do your doubles at match. I can't believe Struber wants to leave Yorkshire for New York, but I don't know. During these COVID times, especially, I don't know. Far nicer in Barnsley than New York. I don't know. Anyway, Mark O'Hare, EFL Bets. Where are you going this weekend, then?
Yeah, kind of the obvious, really. In the Championship, I think Luton are a price to beat Wickham. I watched their game quite closely last weekend against Watford. A really strange one, considering it's a massive derby. It hasn't been played for 14 years. I can understand Nathan Jones's frustration that there was just a lack of intensity or any incident, really. It was quite tame. James Collins missed a great chance a minute before Watford scored the only goal of the game. So quite unfortunate there. I know Luton aren't creating a bucket load of chances, but they've toughened up significantly since Jones returned. He's won half of his matches in charge, kept the opposition to 1 goal or fewer, I think, in almost all of the matches bar 2. I think they will be too good for Wickham, who unfortunately just look a little bit out of their depth, really. They were really unfortunate against Rotherham on the opening day, should have deserved at least a point from that, if not more. They're just outclassed against Blackburn and Swansea. Now, Luton aren't obviously the same kind of side of those 2 teams, don't move the ball around with as much vigor, I could probably say. But, incredible achievement to get there, but it's going to be very hard for them this season. They've only managed 6 shots on target, conceded 52 shots already. They're yet to score. Without Joe Jacobson, their set-piece threat just doesn't seem to be there at the moment. So I worry for them. Luton were narrow winners against Derby and Barnsley. So I thought that I was quite impressed with them against Watford and how they equipped themselves. So, yeah, I don't think that 1.8, I don't think any Championship team will be around 1.8 at home to Wickham in the next couple of weeks and beyond. So that's one to look for. In League One, Oxford got their season up and running last weekend with a big win at Accrington. The scoreline flattered them a little bit, but they had a tough opening 2 games after losing the playoff final. Got points on the board. I think they're overpriced to beat Crewe. This is a League One team who are in the playoff final against the League Two team who've just been promoted. So they did lose a couple of players in the summer, but they're still a strong unit. Matty Taylor up front, one of the best finishers in the league, won 11 of 17 league games before it was curtailed last year. And Crewe already beaten by Charlton and Hull in their first 2 games. Got a result against a poor MK Dons team last weekend, but stylistically, I think this one suits Oxford. Crewe do like to play the ball on the deck and play, decent football. But you look at their results away from home last year: lost 4 of 7 winless trips to the top 11. Only won 3 games against the top 10, home or away. So, I think the bulk of their business last year was done against the lesser teams in League Two. So, I think Oxford are too good. And just one, I'm not putting this up as a bet, but just a wrong price basically, which is something to bear in mind. So Harrogate take on Bolton. Bolton, who are anti-post favourites, around 5-1 to win the league, have been pretty dreadful in their first 3 games under Ian Evatt. He's promised this sort of possession football, but there's been little penetration, conceding too many chances. They're away to Harrogate, but it's not actually away. Harrogate are ground sharing at Doncaster at the moment, while their ground isn't up to EFL standards. But the layers have priced this up as if Harrogate are actually playing at home rather than a neutral venue. While Bolton have been awful and Harrogate have actually been quite good, Bolton around 1.85 with a quarter goal start. Bear in mind, this, as I said, it's the 5-1 anti-post favourites on a neutral venue against a newly promoted club. So, there's a bit of interest there for me. Obviously, we saw Harrogate play Walsall at the same Doncaster venue, I think a fortnight ago, and all the cash came for Walsall all week as people finally started to work it out. But still, they seem to make the same mistake again. So I expect a flood of money for Bolton before Friday.
There you go. League One odds compilers. You have been warned. Mark O'Hare's doing your job for you. Okay, that's a good show. I like that one. Okay, guys, let's move on to weekend best bets. Adrian Clark, what's the top selection for you this week?
Well, I've reserved another EFL game actually for my best bet. Yeah, I've held back. Right, I'm looking at this. It's based on the price. Salford City, for me, Salford City have built a team under Graham Alexander to go up this season. I think I had them in my top two at the start, and nothing I've seen so far has made me change my mind. That they've got a League One team, in my opinion, out there on the pitch. Now they're away at one of my former clubs, Stevenage. And Stevenage, obviously, very fortunate to stay in the EFL. They've improved. They've brought in some good players under Alex Ravel. But they've had a difficult time. They've had positive COVID tests. Training, I know, has been disrupted a little bit over the last week or so. And I just feel that this is a slight golfing class here. Salford were away day specialists last year. No one actually in the Division League 2 had a better points per game ratio than Salford. Only lost 5 out of 18 on the road last season, and they won 8 as well. And their first away trip this season, they went to Grimsby and spanked them 4-0. So for me, there's a slight golfing class here. Stevenage, better, but still not at the same level as Salford. And Salford are, odds against here, I think 2.1-ish to get the win. To get the win at the Broadhall Way. I'm not sure what it's called these days. I will call it Broadhall Way. But I fancy Salford for the away win here.
All right, 2.11 currently available on Matchbook for Salford City at the time of recording. Mark O'Hare.
Yeah, I guess if it's not broke, why fix it? And it's to oppose Southend again. Sorry, Adrian. I kind of bolted it.
You kind of got to.
Yeah, I bolted it last week with Morecambe. I read there were a few injury issues in attack, and they conceded an early goal against Southend, but still won 2-1 and created plenty of chances to win that game a lot more comfortably than they did. Southend, their only goal of the season was that own goal. They're averaging fewer than 6 shots per game, just 1.3 shots on target. The team has looked better on paper with Jason Demetriou coming back, took over the captaincy last week. But their new signing, Carl Taylor, played. Emil Aqua also started as well. But McCormack, big signing, experience. He was a massive doubt for this weekend after missing last week. Aqua had to go off injury. He's a major doubt. Isaac Hutchinson's on his way out. Charlie Kellman's completely lost his form as well. So the sort of key parts of that squad, so as a Waither-Finn squad, a very young squad, there's plenty of doubts over the potential starters for this game as well. So plenty of injuries and lack of experience, lack of bodies. The future on and off the field is in doubt. So if Morecambe could and should have won by a more comfortable margin, there's no reason why Crawley can't. They had a difficult summer, lost some key players. John Yems looked like he was ready to kind of up and leave, really, because he was questioning the future of the club and the direction they were taking. But his team have reacted really well to dogged wins against Scunthorpe and Oldham. Ashley Nadesan and Tom Nichols have looked like a partnership as well up front, which is always quite encouraging. Crawley's home record is actually really strong as well. Just 4 defeats at home since the start of last season. 11 of those 20 games were won. They are a team who, are difficult to beat under John Yems, and they've proved that. I think they've progressed really well under his tutorship. So I think they'll be too strong for Southend. We backed this bet when Carlisle were at home. I think it went off around 1.8, which is a price for Crawley after this weekend. But Carlisle absolutely hosed up in that game. Could have scored 3, 4, or 5. So there's no reason why Crawley won't go off shorter.
2 of our best bets from League 2. I love it. I actually love it. You might think I'm joking there, but I actually love this because I do feel like obviously we cover the main games at the start of the podcast, but it's good to dive into the EFL. I think there's definitely opportunities to make a few quid there. All right, gents, we are out of time. Thank you, Adrian. Thank you, Mark. Hopefully we'll get back on the winning trail this weekend. Thank you for watching at home. Thank you for listening if you're on the podcast. Best of luck with your bets this weekend, and we'll chat to you next week. Stay safe.